For an industrial city, Shifang has very good air quality. This is due to breezes from the mountains that surround it. But when it rains, those same slopes can be as much of a curse as a blessing. Several days of heavy rains have caused the Shiteng River to burst its banks and rage through the streets of Shifang. 162 million liters of water a minute rushes through the town, enough to fill an Olympic swimming pool every second. Workers from a phosphorus factory shelter and film from an upstairs window. A building opposite collapses under the sudden weight of water. Another looks doomed to the same fate. From inside emerges factory worker Wang Zhengquan. He's trapped midstream next to a building that looks like it'll collapse. Grabbing a rubber pipe, he searches for a way through the floods. Behind him, the water is washing away the foundations of his shelter. More and more of the building's support is eroded, and eventually it just becomes too top-heavy and collapses in the floodwater. These floods forced over 6,000 people to evacuate and destroyed 300 homes. Lucky for Wang, he made it out when he did. There are 137 islands that make up Hawaii. Molokai is the 5th largest. A small commuter plane has engine trouble right after takeoff and turns to head back toward the airport. Anyone who's ever been on a plane has worried about crashing. These guys are about to find out what it's like firsthand. This is a Cessna Grand Caravan, a single-engine plane. Less than 2 minutes after takeoff, that engine failed. With no chance of making it back to land, the pilot is forced to try an emergency crash landing into the sea. This is a tricky maneuver to pull off. If you hit the water at too steep an angle, the plane can be sucked under and sink like a stone. If you hit an unexpected wave, the plane will stop dead, and everyone on board will take the impact through their bodies, like a car running into a solid wall at 40 kilometers an hour. And if one wing strikes the sea, the aircraft could flip and end up upside down. It's a textbook landing, but in the impact, the pilot smashes his head on the controls and cuts himself. Everyone remains remarkably calm and prepares to evacuate. But as soon as the aircraft doors are open, water rushes in and the plane begins to sink. The wings will help this aircraft keep afloat for a while, but on this model, they're attached at the roof. So the cabin is going to quickly be underwater. Now, there's a new danger. There are 40 species of shark that live in Hawaiian waters, including the occasional great white. This is the 4th most dangerous place in the world for shark attack. Not good news when your pilot has a head wound that's leaking blood into the water. Sharks can smell a drop of blood from 400 meters away, and they have the sense of electroreception, allowing them to see the weak electric fields generated by the panicked survivor's muscles. Knowing this, everyone tries to get as much out of the water as possible. But 9 people holding onto the same wing unbalances the plane, and it starts to sink. At the moment, nobody knows that they're here. So the 60-year-old pilot and one of the passengers, a 70-year-old Hawaiian man, swim the kilometer to shore to raise the alarm. But when they do come, they come in force. 2 Coast Guard helicopters, a plane, boat, and another fire and rescue chopper all attend the scene. By then, the plane had sunk to the ocean floor. The one bit of good news is, despite the dangers, there were no close calls with the sharks. The hottest summer on record, and Southwest California is ablaze. Houses are scorched, and residents run for their lives. Few people who get this close to a wildfire live to tell the tale. A fire this intense can jump roads and even set tarmac alight. So the drivers were lucky to escape with their lives. Started by arsonists, this summer's high winds and hot temperatures allowed the blaze to spread out of control.
Oh my God! Oh my God!
Once a fire like this reaches a certain size, it becomes self-sustaining, creating its own winds up to 200 kilometers an hour that knock down trees and fan the flames even more. Ideal conditions for one of the most frightening forms of fire imaginable, a firenado. When air heated by the fire hits the surrounding colder air at high speed, it starts to spin, creating a vortex, a tornado of flames. These raging fire devils can grow more than 100 meters high and destroy everything in their path. At its core, the temperature can reach over 1,000 degrees C, hot enough to melt silver, reigniting ash and perpetuating new blazes. This wildfire blazed on for another 10 days. It took 57 aircraft dropping fire-retardant chemicals to eventually bring it under control.